Hi, we are making KPI cards today, so I'm going to go through how to make each of these, and I've intentionally chosen a couple of more muted ones, so these solid color ones here. These would go better in something like an organizational dashboard, but we also have a couple of flashier options for something like a portfolio or social media post. If you are thinking you want the data files or the PBICs for this, these are going to be part of a larger dashboard design course that I'm working on right now. So I'm going to put a link to sign up to be notified when that's ready in the comments and in the video description. Some of these cards use images as part of the background, and those images are available free on Pexels. I'm going to put the link to that site in the video description. All right, let's get started. So we're going to start with the new card visual in Power BI. So it's the one with a lightning bolt and the 1, 2, 3 icon. And we're using this one because it's the only visual that will allow both an image background and rounded corners and a card label. So it basically lets you do more with a single visual versus having to have 3 or 4 visuals to make a card. So I'm going to drop our primary measure in here first. So that's our sales measure. If you're not familiar with measures, they're just basically a summarization of your data. In this case, it's just a sum of our amount field on our sales table. Nothing fancy. Just drag this into a kind of a card shape. And then go to the paintbrush icon where it says format your visual. And under callout values, check your font. So I really like Seago UI. I feel like it's the cleanest font to use in Power BI. Make this a little bit larger if you want to, so maybe 34. We're going to wait on the label for now and configure the cards. So under the cards section, you want your shape to be rounded rectangle. That'll round the corners, but 25 is a little bit big on that rounding, so I'm going to set mine to 10. Then under background, we're going to give it a color. The hex code for the color that I used is 035F5F, kind of an aqua color, and then turn off the border. There's a toggle for that. Now let's set up our font colors. So we're going to scroll on up to our callout values and set our font color to white under values. And same for the label text, but make the size a little bit bigger on that. Make sure the position is set to above value if you want it above the value, and you can reduce the space between the label text and the value if you want. Next, let's set up the padding. So I'm going to scroll back down under cards and look for the padding section. And instead of normal, set it to custom because I don't like any of the presets. And I'm going to give the left padding some more breathing room. So it's at 4 right now. I'm going to set it to maybe 20. And then to move the whole thing up on the card, I'm going to set the bottom padding to something really large, like 120. So now we want to add the variance text. So that's this text under the number with the change versus last year with a triangle up if it's positive and down if it's negative. We can conditionally format this too. That's what we're going to do in the last card. So this text label is the hardest part of this whole thing. So stick with me. We're going to create a couple of measures. So I'm going to do one to get the change percentage versus last. And then I'm going to do another one to take that measure and make it into a text label with the up down arrow. So I'm going to go to the measure tools up top here and do a new measure. And we're going to set this equal to, can I make this bigger? Yes. We're going to use variables here. That'll make the code a little bit more readable. So I'm going to do var sales last year, ly for last year, and that's going to be equal to calculate our sales measure. Maybe I should do proper formatting here. And then we're going to add a comma after our sales measure and a filter. So this filter is going to be whatever you want to use to get this filter down to the last year. What you really want to be using here is a date table. I have another video on how to use date tables. I'm going to link that in the video description. I'll make myself a note right now. Date tables are one of the top 3 things that you want to get the hang of if you are learning Power BI. So in your date table, you can either filter by an explicit year or you can filter by a dynamic year. So in that date table video, we have a column for the relative year. So you can do -1 for last year, -2 for year before that, so on and so forth, 0 for current year. But this is a sample data set, meaning that my data is not updating. So I don't want to use a relative year. I want to use a static year. You can also use fiscal years here. That's the other great use case for date tables. So I'm going to do year from my date table is equal to 2023 because that's the last year of the data in my sample data. There's also some time intelligence functions in Power BI that'll do year to date. So you can pick and choose what values you're comparing here. So last month, current month. We're going to close the parentheses on this and then do the same thing for whatever we're calling the current year. I'm going to do another var, call this sales current year. That'll be equal to calculate sales again, comma, and then our year year equal to 2024. Then to get the difference between those, we're going to do current year minus last year divided by last year. The return, divide. You always want to use the divide function in DAX, not a slash. That'll make it so it doesn't error out if it tries to divide by 0. Current year minus our last year, and then a comma, and our last year. And this is the numerator, this is the denominator. So that'll give us a percentage. If we want to see what that looks like, we can drop it in a visual real quick just to make sure it's functioning. So there's our percentage. You can format that if you want to by selecting it and doing a percentage sign here, but we're going to create another measure that crafts this into a text string, so we don't really need to format it. So one more measure, this is going to be the one that we display in our text label in the card. This one, we're going to set equal to, we're going to use variables again here, so I'm going to do var %change is equal to that measure that we just created. So I'm just going to start typing the name of it and I'll pop up this one here. When we put it in a variable like this, it's more efficient because it's only calculating that percentage one time. We're going to check that value multiple times to figure out which icon to use. That way it doesn't have to recalculate every time it checks. Then we're going to do one more variable for our triangle. We're going to call it var triangle. I don't know what's going on with my DAX color formatting. It's like multiple colors in the space of one word. I don't know. Weird. So this one, we're going to set equal to a switch. So a switch is like an if statement, but you can check multiple different conditions without having to do nested ifs, which get really messy. So we're going to do switch and then true and then a comma. And then we're going to do the cases that we're going to check. So we're going to check our percentage change. So that was PCT change. And is that greater than 0? If yes, then we're going to have it display a UNICHAR 9650. That's the up arrow. And then a comma for our next case. So then if our percentage change is less than 0, then UNICHAR 9660. That's the down arrow. And then do another comma. And this last case is going to be our else. So if it's not greater than 0 and it's not less than 0, then we want it to be blank. So we're just going to do double quotes. That'll be a blank string. And then close our switch. All right. So then for our return, we want to return the text string. So we're going to do our triangle, whether it was up or down, and so and is going to concatenate text together. Do double quotes with space in between. So that's just adding a space in our text. And then we're going to add in our percentage, but we need to format it because when you convert a number into text in a measure, it comes out completely unformatted regardless of what you set that measure formatting to be. So we're going to use format on this. We're going to format our percentage change, which is this variable up here. We're going to multiply that by 100 to make it look like a percentage because it's a decimal right now. And then do a comma and 0 in double quotes. So that's basically showing the rounded amount. And then close the format and do another and put in a percentage sign. So now let's drop this into a table just to make sure that it looks right. Yep. So there's our up arrow and our percentage and it's formatted. So that's good. I'm going to delete this table now and we're going to put that measure into the card visual. So where it goes is under format your visual. There's a section for reference labels. In here you can add data. So click on that and then search for your measure. We're going to use this label text that we created here. So select it from this menu and then we can rename it. We can select it from the select label drop down here. And that gives us a title section. So you can either use the field name or you can set a custom text label. So you want this to be something short. I can say change versus last year and set the color to white because we're going to remove that border between the two sections. And same thing for the value. So the value defaulted to black. I'm going to go and change that to white also. And now we want to turn off this divider between the two sections. That's a little bit buried. If you scroll back up to apply settings 2 where we have sales selected as a series, if you change this to all, that'll let you change the divider setting here to turn it off. If you have that drop down set to a specific measure, this box is grayed out. All right, now for the chart that goes into this card. So currently you need to use a separate visual to do the line or the bars. I've heard that eventually there's plans to put the sparkline into the new card visual, so be on the lookout for that, but I think it's going to take a while. So back over on our visual pane here, we're going to create a new visual as a line chart, and we're going to drop our sales measure in here. Then add some sort of date dimension on the axis. If you have a date table, I like to use the month start date as the x-axis. That'll give it a continuous instead of a categorical trend. It's good to use some kind of date type field. That's why the month start date is great. So while you're in here, make sure that whatever trend you're showing matches the start and end date of the percentage that you're showing as your label. So if you're showing change versus last year, you probably just want to show this year and last year, not 10 years back. You know what I mean? So these visuals can have filters. You can open up the filter pane with the visual selected and then drop in fields from your date table to filter on year. I don't need to do that because my data set only has 2 years worth of data in it. But for example, we can drag in our year and then just select the ones that we want. I think these were the 2 years I was using. So this visual needs some work to be usable in our card. We're going to go to the visual formatting pane here, and we're going to turn off all the grid lines. So I just search for the word grid and then toggle them off. Same with the axis labels. So you can turn the values for the axis labels off, and the title, and the Y values, and the Y title. So now we just have a line. The other thing we want to do here is turn off the background color. That's under the effects category. So toggle that off. That'll give us a transparent background. And then under the general tab up top here, turn off the title here. And also, if you don't want this little widget menu to show when people hover on the card, you can turn off the header icons. So that's this one here. It just makes it cleaner for KPI cards. So decide whether you want your line chart to be curvy or not curvy. So this is one of those kind of perpetual arguments. Some people are of the opinion that it's more accurate to not do the curvy lines. Other people are like, curvy lines look cool. So decide which camp you're in, and then under the visual tab, under lines, set your interpolation type to smooth if you want curvy lines. Then you want to do the color. So in that same section, I'm going to set mine to white. Kind of move it over here and resize it so that your text isn't overlapping with your line. And if you want to, you can add a shade area. So I feel like the shade area gives some contrast. This shade area, you can set the transparency on and whether or not it matches the line color. I'm going to leave this on for now and then just dial it back a little bit. Oops, wrong direction. Dial it up a little bit. All right, so card 1 is done. Next, we're going to do the gray card that has the red or green color formatting for this label, if it's positive or negative. That was this one here. So for this, I'm just going to copy and paste what we already have. So highlight both those boxes. You can group these if you want to. So if you right click on this, you can group. That'll let you drag and resize things easier. So I'm going to Control C, Control V to paste. And we're going to swap out all the colors here. So we're going to make all of the text black except for this one here and change the background color. So when you've grouped things, you no longer get the same menu when you single click on it. So if I single click on this, the group is selected, not the visual. So I need to double click on the visual to actually select it to get all of the proper configuration menus. So our background color was under the cards section. I'm just going to swap this to EEF3F3. Is light gray with a tiny bit of blue in it. And then to change the color on things to make it kind of faster, if you just search for the word color, you can scroll through and find anything that's currently white and change it to black. For the reference labels, you have to actually select the series in order to get the right menu. So I'm going to select our sales measure. That's where our KPI shows up. And I'll set the label to black. And then we're going to show the value with the conditional formatting. So I want to point out that you can use conditional formatting in visual calculations now. So anytime you're doing a calculation and you're only using it in the one visual, it's usually better to do that in a visual calculation. So it's in the modeling tab right here. My issue here is that the reference labels don't show up to be used in the visual calculations. So we're going to create a measure for this instead. Technically, you could put the measure you were displaying in the label in like a tooltip or something, and then you could do the visual calculation on it. But since we already have 2 measures created just for this over here, I kind of feel like putting the measure with the other 2 measures kind of helps centralize things. So I'm going to make a new measure. I'm going to call it KPI color, and this is going to use a variable to calculate the change percent, just like we did for the triangle up, triangle down. Our change percentage is just equal to the name of our measure. This is the one that returns a number, not the one that returns text. And then we're going to return in a switch true, as our cases. We're going to compare our change with 0, just like we did for the triangles, but we're going to return a color instead of a triangle. Then we're going to use that to format the text label. So if our change percent is greater than 0, then return a green. So Power BI measures can reference the theme colors in Power BI. So in the Power BI theme, I'll show you where this is in a second. There's a good color and a bad color for sentiment and a neutral. That's right in the UI. We can reference that by calling good, bad, or neutral here. I can just do good, and it's going to pull whatever is in the theme for the good color. You could also put a hex code in here. Using the good, bad sentiment from the theme makes it easier to have consistent colors across your report. So using the same shade of green for good in multiple places is good practice. Now change percent less than 0, we're going to say that's bad. And then if it's equal to 0, you can say that's neutral. And then we do a comma. For else, we can return blank, and then close our switch. All right, so we've got our colors. Let me show you where that's at in the UI. So if I go to the View tab of the ribbon, and then go to this little drop-down menu here, and then choose Customize the Current Theme. These sentiment colors down here are the good, bad, and neutral. When I open this drop-down up, it sets it to white, which is cool. I'm going to get the hex color codes I used for red and green and put them in text on the screen when I'm editing this, since I was going to pull them from here, but I can't. Let's cancel that. All right, so formatting our label. I'm gonna select our card, double select it because it's grouped. Go to reference labels, make sure our sales measure is selected, and then come down here to the value. And the color right now is white. There's an FX button next to it, click that. Then for the format style, choose field value. And for what to base it on, choose your measure that we just created. And it's going to be under all data, not data in this visual. KPI color measure, I'm going to select that and then click OK. And that made it green. So we're good there. I'm going to change the line color real quick. Again, double click to select it. Go to the lines, change the color. I'm going to make this black. And then for the shade area, you can either dial up the transparency by quite a bit, that, or we can pick another color. So if we turn off the match line color and then dial way back the transparency, we can pick under more colors here, get a preview, something subtle like that. So since this line chart does not match the background color of our canvas, we want to resize it. Just click and drag the thing to resize it inside the group. It'll let you do that. All right, so there's that one. Next, we're going to work with the image background cards. I'm going to duplicate this teal one up here. Just copy, paste, move it down, and swap the visual type. So double click it to select, and I'm gonna go for stacked column. I don't have any categories, so it's not going to have any kind of stacking effect. And then we're going to add some transparency and a border to these. So in the format your visual pane, go to columns and set your color to white, and then turn up the transparency a bit. I don't know if it's like an optical illusion or what, but I feel like the spacing on between these two bars is less than the spacing between these bars. Am I imagining that? I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to turn on the border and then change the color to white on that, and then drag the bottom of it up so that it's actually inside the card, like so. And then we're going to do the background on this. This visual had a drop shadow, but it wasn't actually a drop shadow. It was glow. So the glow is really subtle. So you can just barely tell it's there, which is actually what you want from a design perspective. So subtle is good. When you add the glow, it actually changes the shape and size of your cards. You'll notice this one is slightly smaller than this one now. It's because it's trying to fit the shadow within the borders of the visual. You can just resize the whole thing to make it fit. All right, so now for the image background on this. So I got my images from Pexels. Pexels is cool because they have a filter on their search for free, and they also explicitly do not require you to use attribution for the images. I'm going to put a link to these in the video description. So for reference, the rules for using Pexels photos are don't sell copies of the photo, but you can use it in commercial stuff. So you could use the image as a background in a product, but not sell the image as a wallpaper, for instance. And then here's their terms and conditions. So you don't need to credit Pexels or the contributor, but it's appreciated if you do so. So how I found these is I just searched for their gradient in the search, and there's all kinds of really cool stuff in here for free. Okay, so download your picture, and then back in your card visual settings under cards, under background, there's an option for a background image. So just go in there and browse to the image you downloaded, and then change the image fit. So it defaults to normal, which doesn't work. So try fit or fill instead. So here's what fit looks like. That one looks good. On to our last one. The concept is very similar, but that one has square corners. So I'm just going to duplicate this teal one again. This one had a bar chart, so I'm going to swap it to a stacked bar and go to the format your visual, and I'm going to change the columns to black and give them some transparency. Resize that a bit. We'll fine tune this later. This one, I increased the padding a little bit between the bars. So that's in the columns section under layout. There's a percentage for space between categories. You can dial this up a little bit like so. And then go to your card to configure your card settings. Under cards, set your shape from rounded rectangle to plain rectangle. Under layout, turn on the border for that. And I'm setting mine to 34% transparency and 3 pixels of width. Then we're going to swap out the callout value color and the reference label color to black. And under background, we're going to import our background image. Again, the link to this is in the video description, and set it to fit. That's it. So I would love to see the things that you make with this. If you happen to make a cool dashboard and you post it on LinkedIn, just @tag me so that I can see it. I'll update your post, all that jazz. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.